Episode 33. Children grown up in nature are more intelligent.
Welcome to Thriving with Nature, a podcast that gives you the tools you need to live a modern lifestyle that helps regenerate our planet. And now your host, Hayley Weatherburn.
Hello, Thrivers, and welcome to this week's episode. Oh, I wish I could show you where I am right now. I am in the beautiful rainforest here in Bali, Indonesia. I'm up in the southern end of the mountain called Batu Karu, and it's called this area is called Saranbuana. And I'm looking out of the windows in my brick cabin, and there's windows on it's like glass right round, and every area is like a painting of, like, there's bamboo to the sides, there's a sort of a plant that is clinging to another plant, we've got vines up here, we've got beautiful tropical birds flying around. Hopefully you can hear some of those birds at the moment tweeting. And I have a view down the jungle valley with tops of coconut trees, the leaves. It's just lush and green. And as the valley goes down, I can see down just in the distance there, I can see Kuta, the flat areas of Bali, which is very cool. So I'm very privileged. I hope if you're stuck somewhere inside and you're just craving the outdoors, or maybe you're driving in some kind of traffic, I'm bringing Bali jungle to you from wherever you are in the world. So I hope you enjoy that. Today's topic is an interesting one I want to share with you. I read an article yesterday called Children Raised IQ. So it's in The Guardian. I'll make sure I put a link in the show notes. And it shows the analysis of more than 600 children aged 10 to 15 showed a 3% increase in the greenness of their neighbourhood raised their IQ score by an average of 2.6 points. And that was across both richer and poorer areas. They say there is already significant evidence that green spaces improve various aspects of children's cognitive development, but this is the first research to examine IQ. The cause is uncertain, but may be linked to lower stress levels, more play and social contact, or quieter environment. Well, I think there's something more to that. It inspired me. It actually reminded me of a chapter in another book. So Anastasia, we all know that I refer to this quite regularly. And all my fellow Anastasia lovers, hello. In the first book, chapter 13, it's called A Helper and Mentor for Your Child. And it's the first sort of introduction as to the importance of, when you're raising children, to raise them in nature. It's almost like put them on the grass and let them just sort of have a look around. And it automatically starts their brain asking questions. Like, what is this tiny little bug? Oh my gosh, it's crawling. The grass, the wind, the sun. It starts to activate their brain in a way that can help develop them in a long term, according to what Anastasia is talking about. And she talks about those children they're grown up inside, they're given plastic toys. There's not, looking at a plastic toy, it doesn't have the multi-layered elements of, even a square foot of nature, of grass, can give you so many dimensions. The sun, the water, the wind, the earth, what's in the earth, the microbes, the bugs, the different plants that are growing, why is that growing and that one's not? What's happening to that one? There's like already in just a foot of nature, there is so many questions for that child to start contemplating as a young child. We all look at little babies and they're just looking around with their big bright eyes, just trying to take in the world. And when they're in nature, there's what Anastasia talks about, is there's this opportunity for that cognitive growth to really accelerate. Whereas if a lot of the Western world just can accidentally go right through until they're, 8 or 9 before they really step out into nature and almost have a fear and completely feel separate from it and afraid of bugs maybe. And, it's really, really interesting. And it's interesting that this article comes in. Every now and then I find these articles that start to show evidence of what Anastasia was talking about. But let me read to you the last couple of paragraphs of this particular chapter. It's obviously better to have read the whole thing, but this might give a little bit of context. She said, "It's not just a matter of having a knowledge and feeling about what grows and how. The main thing is that the child is starting to think, analyze, and cells are awakening in his brain, which will operate throughout his life. They will make him brighter and more talented compared to those whose corresponding cells are still dormant. As far as civilized life goes, what you call progress, he may well turn out to be superior in any field of endeavour, all the more so since the purity of his thought will make him an exceptionally happy person. The contact he has established with his planets, and of course the gardens, will allow him to constantly take in and exchange more and more information. The incoming messages will be received by his subconscious and transmitted to his consciousness in the form of many new thoughts and discoveries. Outwardly, he would look like everyone else, but inwardly, this is the kind of human, you would call a genius." So yeah, it's this amazing idea that just introducing your child with some outdoor activity in nature really can help provoke that mental growth. And that's something that this article says. So it actually says at the end here, "I'm not sure why general intelligence should be improved by these things. My guess is the intelligence measures are really picking up a child's ability to concentrate and stick to it at a task, which has been shown in green space studies before. If anything, the study might help us move away from seeing intelligence as innate. It could be influenced by environment, and I think that is much more healthy." So yeah, but what brings me, there's a connection here. So we still don't really know too much why this IQ looks like it's going. Anastasia has her theory, her hypothesis. Anastasia has her hypothesis. What I want to introduce is another email I received. I received it from the Ringing Cedars. So this is Vladimir Megra's business, who wrote the Anastasia books. I received an email just recently that is really, really interesting. And it talks about how the different aspects of plants and the fact that plants are more alive on a conscious level than we may first think. So it talks about there's 7 different examples it shows of how plants have a bit more of a consciousness than we think. So the first thing is plants are not indifferent. And there was an experiment done where the plants they were measuring the plant's reactions, and the plant was feeling the pain of another being. So when an egg was cracked or dropped, the plant actually felt, the what are they called? I'm moving my hands around. The squiggly lines, the measuring devices, was registered that it felt pain. Then they also, in its vicinity, started to boil shrimp, which sounds torturous, and the plant responded to that, again showing the pain. So it shows that plants are not indifferent. They're sensing outside themselves. Plants can be afraid. Plants understand. So there was an experiment done where, as this plant was growing, they started poking one particular side with thorns, breaking off some bits on just one particular side, and eventually the plant decided to grow a different way. So plants understand. It has been proven many times that plants are able to perceive words addressed to them. Back in the last century, I'm just reading part of the email here, the famous American botanist L. Burbank created a new variety, simply talked with the plant for a long time. For example, to create a variety of thornless cactus, he repeated many times to the shoots, "You don't need thorns, you have nothing to fear, I will protect you." And this was his only method. But the variety previously known for its thorns began to grow without thorns and passed on this property to its offspring. Isn't that amazing? Like, it's a fact, but it's amazing. It's understanding. And whether it's literally understanding the words we're saying or the frequency of the words, what they mean create a certain frequency, and the plants are receiving that. It's pretty amazing. Another one was plants comprehend. So plants also comprehend. Back in 1959, an article by V. Karmanoff with the Prozac title, The Use of Automation, Cybernetics in Agriculture, was published in the Reports of the Academy of Sciences of the USSR. The article described the experiments in the laboratory of biocybernetics of the Institute of Agrophysics of the Academy of Sciences of the USSR. Sensitive devices were installed in the Institute's greenhouse, which noted that when the soil dries out, the bean shoots that grew there began to emit pulses in low frequency range. The researchers tried to consolidate this connection. As soon as the devices perceived such a signal, a special device immediately turned on watering. Judging by the results due to this, the plants developed a kind of conditioned reflex. As soon as they needed watering, they immediately gave a signal. Moreover, the plants soon developed a watering regime for themselves without human intervention. Instead of plentiful one-time watering, they chose the most optimal option for themselves and turned on the water every hour for 2 minutes. How amazing is that? The plant learnt how to request the water and then create the most optimal watering process for themselves. Isn't that just amazing? I find that absolutely amazing. Plants also remember, so they'll grow away from harm. So the experiment was they started to poke and prod and damage one side of this plant, and so the plant started to grow away from that area because they knew that that area was dangerous. Plants can transmit signals to one another. Warning, I've talked about this before, the mycelia in forests. There would be so much mycelia fungi that's connecting all this forest right around me. And a plant that is connected here to fungi could be connected to another plant across the way. And so it's this, information highway of the plants. And what happens is plants, if there's one plant that's getting danger, maybe a monkey starts eating some of the plant or starts to break something, it will send a signal out. And often there's defense mechanisms that other plants will turn on because they're like, okay, there's danger near, I need to turn this on. So they communicate and warn one another. And finally, the most romantic part is plants' love. There was a ficus that fell in love with a particular girl, the girl that would clean its leaves, and it would light up every time this girl would come into the room. And it even registered when she was flirting with another man, it registered jealousy on these scientific documents. So the reason why I wanted to talk about that in regards to the same aspect of children raised in greener areas have a higher IQ, what is going on with that connection of children could be even far beyond what we're imagining. The older trees, the trees would sense, this young child, maybe they send out some signals. I know forest bathing, for example, when I go walking under the forest, I can feel the energy cleaning my energy. The International Academy of Consciousness talks about the most pure energy comes from like trees and plants, and it helps clean your energy. We can sort of have our messed up energy that's filtered from our thoughts and other people's thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So when you're out alone in nature, it cleanses and creates this pure energy. So again, it cleans the energy for the children. So, it's nothing new to say, spending time in nature is amazing for you, but to see that it can raise your IQ, to see that the plants are these almost conscious beings that, they want the best for the whole system, and we are part of that. And so, in a way, they'd be looking out for us as well. So, anyway, it's an interesting thought. I wanted to share it with you. I will put a link to the article, Children Raised in Greener Areas Have Higher IQs, and if you have any questions about any of the other things, please feel free to connect, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Pop into the show notes on the website. There'll be a link directly to the website where you can add your comments. But thanks again for listening from wherever you are in this world. I will be signing off from the Bali jungle, and I will see you all next week. Have an amazing day. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to my podcast, remember to subscribe to hear more. You also have to come check out the Living Supplement Garden, a garden that reads your individual's body's condition and grows the substances it requires to move towards optimal health and potentially healing your ailments. When we align with nature, we thrive with nature. I'd love to have you join myself and others as we discover the magic of nature together and strive to heal both ourselves and our planet. Go to thrivingwithnature.com.